What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Bronx Attorney Broadcast. Today we have Carey Beyer. Carey is a partner at O'Connor and Partners. He is a board member of the Trial Academy, and he's quite heavily involved with the Trial Academy, which we'll talk about today. Carey, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, Will. I think you might say I'm obsessed with the Trial Academy. Maybe I spend more time on that than my practice, but don't tell my clients.
Yeah, yeah. And we'll get into all that eventually. But first, tell me, just generally, tell me a little bit about your practice and what you do.
Sure. So I've been admitted to practice for 11 years now, I think actually this month. I've spent the entirety of my career up until the last 3 weeks practicing in Buffalo at a small trial firm. I handle almost exclusively plaintiff's personal injury cases. Up until I joined O'Connor and Partners, where I've diversified my practice a little bit, it was exclusively plaintiff's personal injury, but not to any one area. I've practiced probably the full gamut of
Mhm.
personal injury type cases. So car crashes, construction cases, demolition cases, premises cases, a ton of dog bite that I know you and I are going to get into later because
Yeah.
I've sort of made dog bite and animal related injuries sort of a pet project, pardon the pun, I practice. Nursing home cases, medical malpractice cases, pretty much if somebody is injured and it's somebody else's fault, I have represented them in some capacity to get them compensation.
And you're continuing with that now at O'Connor and Partners. It's going to be
Absolutely.
everything.
Yeah, absolutely. So O'Connor and Partners is one of the leading, if not the leading, personal injury firm in the Hudson Valley. I grew up here. Another topic I know that we're going to get into a little bit later. So I'm really excited to come home. I grew up in New Paltz, went to school in Highland, went to high school and lived in Poughkeepsie. Now I'm raising my family here. So yeah, no, a ton of personal injury practice. Again, diverse clientele and a diverse scope of subject matter.
And O'Connor and Partners is Joe O'Connor, he's the incoming
Yeah.
president for the Trial Academy, right?
I told you I was obsessed with the Trial Academy. So Joe O'Connor's the incoming president-elect, I think is the official term.
Yeah. When does he start? When does his term start?
I think June. I think
Okay.
we'll Andrew Bonina, who
Mhm.
has been one of the best, if not the best presidents in my personal opinion.
Mhm.
Don't tell her I said that. But she ends in June, and Joe will be taking the reins from there.
Okay. And you joined O'Connor and Partners like very recently, right? It was
Yeah.
within the month.
Yeah, actually the I believe my first day was January 5th.
Okay.
So a couple weeks in. So far it's going
So
great.
yeah, what are you excited for in your new role?
I'd say I'm excited about everything. The most exciting thing for me personally is that it's a homecoming.
Mhm.
So I grew up in the Hudson Valley. Like I said, born and raised in New Paltz. I went to school in Highland at a little grammar school that doesn't exist anymore called St. Augustine's. I went to high school at Our Lady of Lourdes in Poughkeepsie. All my family is still here. I got a ton of friends in the area. And I mean, on a personal level, that's the most exciting. But on a professional level, I mean, I can't tell you the type of opportunity that coming to a firm like O'Connor and Partners has given me to help my clients. It's given me more, I think, ammunition, some more exposure,
Mhm.
and certainly a lot more flexibility as a partner as opposed to an associate to represent my clients in ways that I probably couldn't do before as an associate constrained in a firm. So I'd say it's like every aspect of this change is exciting for me.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I'm looking forward to seeing, what new things you'll accomplish while you're there.
Oh, I haven't
Um,
even thought them up yet. Give me, I've always thought of myself as an ideas guy, but a
uh,
couple weeks from now, I'll be like, hey, Will, I got an idea. We're going to do something.
yeah, and we've seen that with your work in the Trial Academy. But how did you first learn of the Trial Academy? How did you decide, because there's a lot of bar associations out there. How did you decide that this was the one that you wanted to not only join but get pretty heavily involved with?
It's just like saying like there are many bar associations, but this one is mine. Uh,
Yeah.
so I've been a member of the Trial Academy probably since I graduated from law school. So my former boss, Fran Litro, is I think one of the founders of the Academy. I got involved through him early on. I think I started really getting most involved once we founded the associate board, which I know you're a member and have been a member of as well for a few years now. But I was actually on I'm not sure if anybody on the associate board knows this, but we had kind of a test pilot run of an associate board a few years before the actual associate board was founded.
Hmm.
So I was a part of that sort of a test run. I think that was when Angelique Moreno was president, and it kind of didn't really work out. And then a couple years later, version two got off the ground when Mike Solomon took over as chair, and that's what it was. I mean, one of the reasons I love the Trial Academy, yeah, we're gonna turn this into a Trial Academy commercial. Michelle is paying you for what we're
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about. Get a sponsorship.
We'll sell it to
So
her after we're done.
yeah, oh no, we're gonna ham it up. That's what we're gonna do. Get her a lot of bang for her buck.
Hmm.
So one of the things I loved about the Trial Academy and the associate board in particular is it's a yes. I've always said this. It's a yes-based organization.
Hmm.
If you come in and you've got the energy and you've got an idea and you're willing to do the work behind it, you're going to have the support from that organization that you need, anything that you need, and they're going to let you run. So if you're an ideas person, if you're a motivated person and you want to put yourself out there, then the Trial Academy is where you want to be. Because you'll get that support not just from the administration, but also from members like you and I.
Hmm.
I know both of us have helped other members over the years. I mean, this podcast is one of them, giving
For
people a
sure.
platform
Yeah.
to be able to talk about themselves and their professional lives. But I love that. I'm a member of a lot of different organizations. Some of the CV that you didn't list earlier. I'm still the second vice president of the Charles S. Desmond Inn of Court in Buffalo. And if you don't know about the Inns of Court, it's a fantastic national organization that's got regional branches across the
Hmm.
country. It's based on civility in practice. It's about connecting the bench to the bar. It was brought over in the 80s to mirror organizations in London. They actually have
Hmm.
in court, actual inns, buildings in the city of London. So I've seen other organizations, and the ones I love are the ones that are supportive of their members. They're yes-based. They're going to let you run. I've seen other organizations, and I've been part of other organizations where there's too much bureaucracy, in my opinion,
Yeah.
where they're slow moving and they're really just hold their people back. And that's tough. I think most people in this profession are energetic, smart, successful people. And I think most of them, if you just gave them an opportunity, they're going to do amazing things. And I love organizations that help them.
Yeah, for sure. And before we get a little bit deeper into your dog bite work with the Trial Academy, you mentioned that you've had a lot of dog bite cases over your career. Personally, me, I've only had a few. So why do you think that, you've gotten so many?
So it starts within the first couple of years of my practice. So my very first trial, I was second chair. It was a dog case. And it wasn't a traditional dog case. Woman was seriously injured when she got tangled up in leashes that a defendant was holding. And this guy was a moron. He was running. I say it, we lost the trial, so maybe the jury disagree with me, but my personal opinion,
Yeah.
the guy was a moron. He was running through a small path in a wooded area, came up on my client, tangled her up in the leashes, took her down. She had a severe injury because of it. If you're a student of the history of dog law, the
Yeah.
case starts before the Court of Appeals case of Dorr v. Goldsmith. So, case was originally sued primarily under the idea that it was a negligent handling case, that the dogs were non-vicious. We had to agree with that.
Right.
But the owner was negligent in tangling her up, therefore there's liability. And prior to 2015 in Dorr v. Goldsmith, there was a line of appellate cases, particularly out of the first department, that said that that was okay. That was a narrow exception to what's called the vicious propensity rule.
Hmm.
Midway through our case, Court of Appeals decides Dorr v. Goldsmith, which just kills negligent handling and affirms the rule that you can only hold someone liable for a dog injury if they knew or should have known about the vicious propensity.
Hmm.
So now we've essentially got nothing. We got to trial on a sliver of hope that maybe the guy himself made physical contact with my
Right.
client,
Yeah.
so it's personal negligence. But we go through the whole trial and we get no caused pretty quickly with the jury because the judge instructed the jury you are not to consider, for the purposes of negligence, how the defendant controlled his dogs or the
Mm.
leashes.
Right.
What are you going to do?
Yeah.
I always felt that that was entirely unfair. I think my
Mm.
client got screwed. Not that the judge did anything wrong. I wanted to say that, but I went all the way to the Court of Appeals and was told no, the judge did it right. But that was the law
Yeah.
after Gore
Hmm.
v. Goldsmith, and the law was not fair. So I sort of made it this a pet project of mine
Hmm.
to fix that law. So I started writing on the topic of dog law. I started presenting on the topic of dog law. I started collaborating with other attorneys who do a lot of work with dog law. One in particular is actually Matt Kaiser from William Matar's office, and
Hmm.
he's relevant when we get to the conversation about Flanders v. Goodfellow, which was the
Uh-huh.
case last year that changed the law. So Matt and I, we connected years ago, talking about dog law because he had presented, he was interested in it as well. He's also an appellate attorney over there at Matar's office. And it was probably, I'm just going to assume you're asking me questions, so I'm just going to run, by the way.
It
It was,
makes my job a lot easier when you can read my mind.
you know what I mean by platforms? Just be yes, based. I'm good. So we were talking for years, and it was probably, must have been like December of 2023. He and I had talked about a few cases. He had a couple of dog bite cases at the fourth department. One was interesting. One was interesting to me because it comes from the Hewitt v. Palmer Vet Clinic decision. If you're not familiar with the Hewitt decision, it was a Court of Appeals decision in 2020 that created an exception to the vicious propensity rule for veterinarians.
Mm,
Basic facts of that case were a woman is sitting in the lobby of a veterinary clinic. The vet brings a dog out that had just had surgery, and the dog attacks, series of events occur. Dog ends up attacking the plaintiff.
hmm.
She sues the veterinary office and has to concede no known vicious propensity for the veterinarian. And she loses at the trial level, she loses at the appellate division, but it goes all the way up to the Court of Appeals. Court of Appeals issues a ruling in 2020 that says because veterinarians have a specialized knowledge of canines and canine behavior, they can be held liable in negligence. But the operative words in the decision were specialized knowledge of canine behavior.
Hmm.
So Matt had a case that I really liked and I was following, I was helping him with it,
Yeah.
where it was somebody who ran a dog rescue for a number of years. She like had her own dog rescue business. And if I remember correctly, plaintiff is injured during essentially a meet and greet with one of the dogs. And I think Matt had to concede no known vicious propensity, but made the argument that as somebody who had run a canine rescue for so many years, she had the specialized knowledge of canine
Hmm.
behavior. So he loses. Fourth
Yeah.
Department says no, that is veterinarians only, not specialized. That's not the operative word. So he calls me a few weeks later and he says, I'm going to the Court of Appeals. I said, oh, on that case with the canine rescue. He
Yeah.
goes, no. I go, okay, then what are you going to the Court of Appeals on? He goes, Flanders. I go, what's Flanders? And
Yeah.
he explains the case to me. The most interesting thing about the Flanders case prior to the decision from the Court of Appeals is that there was nothing interesting about the Flanders case. It was the most run-of-the-mill dog
Yeah.
bite case you can possibly imagine.
Hmm.
Mail carrier comes up to drop off a package, knocks on the door, owner opens up the door, and this dog Murdoch comes barreling down the hallway, jumps up and bites this poor woman in the neck. Standard. They get through discovery. And this is Matar's law. I can't take credit for this. This is
Mm.
Matar's. They do a good job and they get affidavits from other mail carriers saying that this dog, every time they went there, it was like throwing itself at the window, it was biting
Yeah.
at the glass, it's got, spit going all over the place, it's trying to eat me.
Hmm.
And it seemed like the people were there, so they should have known.
Right.
Trial court says no, summary judgment to the defendants. Goes up to the fourth department, nope, summary judgment to the defendants is correct. He gets it up to the Court of Appeals. So now the game is on. Because if you're a deep scholar of dog law, you're going to know that the current chief judge, Rowan Wilson,
Hmm.
wrote a concurring opinion in the Hewitt case. And in the Hewitt case, Judge Wilson said, essentially, throw out the vicious propensity rule
Mm.
because we like the dissenting opinion from Judge Fahey and Judge Pigott in Dorr. Like I said, we're doing a deep dive here
Yeah. Yeah.
that says throw out the vicious propensity rule. We're an aberration in the United States. We're the only
Hmm.
state that does this nonsense. Restatement of torts.
Hmm.
Negligence for defendants is enough.
Yeah.
All right. So the game is on. They do their briefing. Matt contacts me because he knows I'm connected with the Trial Academy.
Hmm.
And I don't remember if I brought it to the board or if Matt brought it to the board, but somehow the conversation of should we submit an amicus brief comes up
Hmm.
behind the scenes at the Trial Academy.
And what's
Uh,
an amicus brief?
so an amicus brief is what's the actual interpretation is friend of the court. So
Hmm.
for an organization, a person, a business that has a specialized knowledge on a topic related to an issue presented before the court, they can submit a brief that the court will consider
Hmm.
in making its decision because they have specialized knowledge and interest. So the Trial Academy regularly submits amicus briefs from time to time because we have almost 6,000 members, predominantly plaintiffs' personal injury trial attorneys. We represent thousands upon thousands of affected plaintiffs, so we have
Yeah.
special knowledge on
Hmm.
these topics. So we're in the conversations about do we submit an amicus brief? I'm pushing hard for yes. And I believe overall the board was positive on it.
Yeah.
But I was going to be working with Mike Hutter from Powers and Santola, who is a scholar as far as the Court of Appeals is concerned. For those who do appellate practice, particularly the Court of Appeals, Mike Hutter's name is significant. Professor Hutter, I should say, he's at Albany Law. So, and I think Mike would be okay with me telling this part of the story.
Hmm.
So he and I are having a conversation about what should the amicus brief say. How far do we really want to go with it? I'm pushing for full overturn of Bard. Bard was the Court of Appeals decision that actually set the vicious propensity standard, saying only vicious propensity knowledge is sufficient for liability. I say overturn Bard. And in the early conversations, Professor Hutter's position was, I don't think they're going to go that far. We don't
Hmm.
want to lose credibility. Let's something less than that. And
Yeah.
the easiest argument would have been with the affidavits that the plaintiff submitted, there's at least a question of fact on the record.
Hmm.
My concern was if we don't advocate for the overturning of Bard, when the plaintiff was, Matt Kaiser over at Matar's office was advocating for the overturning of Bard, it's going to undercut him. If
Hmm.
we come in as a friend, as plaintiff's lawyers, and we're not saying overturn Bard, court's going to say it must not be
Yeah.
that big.
Yeah.
So I write, Mike pretty much tells me, hey man, you write the brief, write whatever you want to say, and we'll sort it out once it's on paper. So I write the brief. And it's May of 2024 at this point. I submitted to Mike. I don't get an answer. And I call. I don't get an answer. And I wait. I give it a little bit of time. We're coming through June. We're coming up into July. I finally reach out to Michelle. I say, hey, have you heard from Mike? Oh yeah, on and off. I go, I need
Hmm.
I need to know what we're doing with the Flanders case. I said, I don't know if there's a timeline. And recently, the Court of Appeals in May of 2024 had changed its rules, unbeknownst to me at the time. I said, you know what? I'm running an event in Buffalo. Family Fun Day is another thing we can talk about if we have
Yeah.
time. I'm running an event, and Rob Ricardo from Council Press is going to be there. For those who don't know Rob Ricardo, he's an appellate practice expert. Council Press does appellate printing. Rob Ricardo consults on appellate practice. So I said, hey, Rob's a friend of mine. He's going to be at the event. I'll just ask Rob what's going on. So I see Rob on Sunday, and I mentioned the Flanders case to him. I say, hey, is there any deadline? Like, are we worried about amicus briefs? He goes, oh, I'll check tomorrow when I get to the office. Next day, I'm driving down to Cattaraugus County from Buffalo. For anybody who doesn't know what Cattaraugus County is, it's immediately south of Buffalo. It's right on the Pennsylvania border.
Hmm.
And in between Buffalo and Little Valley, where I was, you have to cross over some mountains where you don't have very good cell reception.
Okay.
So, so I'm in court, I finish up, and as I'm driving, I get a call from Rob. He says, Carey, we looked into it. Your deadline's today.
Oh my.
And I said, what? He says they changed the rules in May. You now have to submit it within 30 days of the reply brief, and
Hmm.
that was 30 days ago today.
Wow.
So you need to get the brief to me today by 3 o'clock at the absolute latest so that we
Hmm.
can get it formatted, printed, and served at the Court of Appeals in Albany.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I'm trying to make phone calls to Michelle, to Rob, to anybody I can, because now we got to get the committee together. We got to figure out where Mike Hutter is. We got to do everything. And it's scrambling, it's emergency. And then out of the blue, probably around noon, we get an email from Mike Hutter saying, good to go.
Nice.
So I immediately fire the brief off to Rob Ricardo. Rob sends it to his printing people. They get it printed, they get it served, and we're in under the wire. We were the only amicus brief that was accepted. Now, what I did a presentation with defense counsel Mike Purley, who's an excellent defense attorney who handled the actual argument at the Court of Appeals.
Hmm.
And Mike pointed out during the presentation, and this is true, although my brief was originally accepted at the Court of Appeals, about a week before the argument, it was rejected based on a conflict with uh, with Shirley Troutman, who had a relationship. All we know is that she had a relationship with a party or an attorney in
Uh-huh.
relation. What I personally suspect happened, the court knew what it was going to do, and because we were the only amicus brief, they didn't want
Yeah.
any muddying of the waters.
Hmm.
So Matt Kaiser from Matar's office handled the argument. Mike Perley handled from Hurwitz Fine handled the argument for defense. They both did a fantastic job. But ultimately, the Court of Appeals comes out unanimous overturning Bard. Now,
Hmm.
what does that mean for our clients? All of our clients across the state. What it means is it is now far easier to hold someone responsible when someone is injured due to a dog, because you no longer have to rely on the defendant essentially crying uncle during a deposition. For the
Hmm.
cases you've handled, for many of the practitioners out there, I can't tell you how many times I came across a dog that tore someone's body apart, a horrible, vicious injury. And then in the deposition, the defendant walks in and goes, well, Fluffy never did that before.
Right. Right.
Oh, he was such a sweet dog until he tore the face off of a 2-year-old.
Yeah. So you would essentially need the defendant to
Yeah.
admit that their dog had done vicious things before or find it in a veterinary record or and most people will just lie under oath and say
Yep.
that they had no idea.
Yep. Because unless you've got the golden veterinary record that says owner came in today and the dog bit the mailman and she saw it happen, because you need
Yeah.
not only the vicious propensity but also knowledge. These defendants were walking away simply by lying under oath. And there was
Mhm.
nothing we could do unless they screwed up during the deposition.
And that was making it so that a lot of these people who were attacked really had no access to justice. They had to pay their
Bingo.
own medical records. You know, if they missed work, they were out those wages,
A
whatever pain
lot.
and suffering they went through. And so
Yep.
that's why it was so important for you to, get this law changed.
Yeah, the law was not fair. And
Hmm.
I made it a personal mission to get that law changed. And luckily, Matt Kaiser in Matar's office, and we worked alongside him with the amicus brief and helping him plan out arguments. We were able to get that done. And it helps every plaintiff. It helps everyone across the state, because when a law isn't fair,
Yeah.
lawyers need to get on the job and change it.
Hmm. And that's what I love about the Trial Academy is that it gives you the opportunity to do these things that you wouldn't be able to do as just a firm or just a single attorney. Like I know there was one thing where it was more of a procedural thing where, I had a defendant that passed away and, I have no interest in his personal assets, his estate's assets. I'm just looking for the insurance coverage that was on his vehicle at the time of the accident. And the way that the law is you have to open an estate to try
Yeah.
to obtain that insurance policy. But
Yep.
there was a few decisions that where a judge said I can appoint a temporary or limited administrator for only for the purposes of the policy.
Right.
So what I proposed was changing, the law to now make it in the CPLR, giving judges the authority to just appoint that temporary or limited administrator. And it seems like we're working through it. There's a ton of people who want to have opinions on it, and we're going to see if we can, pass that change in the law. And that's something I wouldn't have been able to do without the Trial Academy.
Yeah. Having that kind of support behind you as an individual, it you can't quantify how important it is. And that's what I mean. You, me, pretty much everybody in this profession. You
Hmm.
are and this is to the listeners out there. If you're an attorney listening to this right now, you are a highly qualified individual. You are an intelligent individual and you are a motivated individual. Find people and organizations in your community, your state, your country who are going to support that and let you be as successful as you can be.
Yeah, and you've done uh, probably hours of CLEs on this
Yeah.
topic, right? So you're
Yep.
telling a little bit more of the story about how it happened and touching on the law a little bit. But if anybody's listening to this, the Trial Academy has all those saved, and you can go and listen to them and get CLE credit and really become very knowledgeable about this area of law.
Yeah, what I would suggest is this: you can look up both my original dog law CLE, which was pre-Flanders, and then
Hmm.
the I did a sequel, World According to Flanders, afterward. You can get a credit if you go watch Bad Dog Part One, but don't bother because it's not good law anymore.
Right, right.
I made the my own course obsolete. So go watch Bad Dog Part Two.
And on a little bit of a lighter note, you've also been known in the Trial Academy for being the starter of these family fun days, which you
Yep,
were telling me, was born out of being a young parent. You're not necessarily able to go to happy hour or, the Yankees game after work or something like that. And so you came up with an idea to kind of have a new type of event, right?
that's right. So this would have been. Oh boy. So I've got two kids. I've got two girls that I love dearly. They are currently 6 and 4. So this came out of a meeting I was in, a Zoom meeting I was in with a couple members of the Trial Academy board, a couple members of the associate board, a couple of the administrators. And for context, this is still back in the COVID days. So my younger daughter, this has to have been about 4 years ago now, because I think my younger daughter was about 6 months old when this happened. So I'm upstairs in a Zoom meeting with all these people, and we're having a conversation about how do we get young people more engaged in the organization? What can we do to get young attorneys into the trial academy? Because look, across the board, all of these bar associations are having trouble convincing younger attorneys to join as members.
Hmm.
And we can make an appeal as much as we can that honestly, you're going to get benefits, you're going to get networking opportunities, you're going to get this and that. But we're sitting there and my wife is downstairs with, at the time, a 6 month old and a 2.5 year old trying to entertain them while
Hmm.
I'm upstairs on a meeting. And the only idea that's coming out from anybody's mouth is bar nights.
Yeah.
Oh, let's rent out this bar. Oh, let's
Hmm.
go to that restaurant. Let's do this at 6 or 7 or 8 o'clock at night on a Tuesday.
Hmm.
And I finally got frustrated with them. I said, look, guys, I can't do that.
Yeah.
And everyone's similarly situated to me. We can't do that. And look, I'm not going to sit here and say, like, as a dad, I'm the first person to realize that as an attorney, it's difficult to raise two young kids.
Yeah.
Lord knows
Right.
that mothers have had it far worse than fathers forever,
Hmm.
but it was just frustrating. So we get off of the meeting, and I remember I go downstairs and I'm kind of fuming a little bit, and I'm talking to my wife, who's an attorney too, and saying like, okay, look, what would it look like, right? Let's make it ourselves. What does the event need to be to help young parents and make us accepted to
Hmm.
network? And the original idea actually we came up with was, what if we could run like a summer camp for a day? Like rent out a park in a space and we'll invite everybody out and their families because the key has to be not only are kids allowed to be in the event, we need to actively ask people to bring their kids.
Yeah.
We need to not just, permit them to, dress your kid up nice and
Hmm.
scold them in the car beforehand. You better not act up, so help me. No, that's not fun, and
Yeah.
that's not great for anybody. So let your kids be kids. That's what we wanted to do. So the very first Family Fun Day launched in Buffalo, park shelter that I rented out in Williamsville, and we partnered with the local YMCA, and they brought out a bunch of. We partnered with the YMCA, and we partnered with the Buffalo Niagara Library, and we set up stations where the YMCA was running like camp type activities and games for
Hmm.
kids. And the library set up like a reading station and a craft station, and it went great. The kids were able to go play and have a good time. The adults, we provided lunch, we had drinks. I brought a bartender out.
Hmm.
Hey, Carl. Have a good night, brother. That's Carl. He's one of the attorneys in the firm.
Cameo from Carl.
Yeah. So we brought him out. People had a really good time, and it just sort of grew from there. So after the day in the park, we started doing the apple picking event, which was our most successful, I think. And that was at Becker Farms out in Buffalo as well.
Hmm.
I think our first year at Becker Farms, I think we had 125 people show up for
Wow.
lunch and apple picking.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then recently it's been spreading across the state. I know you just ran an event at the Islanders game that I
Hmm.
was there. For those who go on our social media, they'll see me smiling and you
Yeah.
not smiling as brightly.
I
Uh,
wish it was a better game, but
oh, it
other
was
than
great. What are you
that,
talking? I loved it. So I had a great time. But no, it's fantastic. Out on Long Island, I believe last year we went to a minor league baseball game with the Long Island Ducks. I started doing Buffalo Bisons, their AAA team up in Buffalo, for the Blue Jays. It's honestly, these family fun days have been a hit. I
yeah.
think I think there is an appetite, and it's not just lawyers. It's everybody, every young
Mhm.
professional out there, whether you're in real estate, whether you're in medicine, whether you're in business, whatever it is. It is hard being a young professional and having young kids. And I think we're at a point where all of us should really accept that we can make the rules ourselves.
Yeah.
We can change the game. And if we want professional life to include space for families, for our kids, and for that not to be a detriment or to hold people back anymore, we just have to demand it.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that we had the
Mm.
opportunity with the Trial Academy, and I found so much support, in those ideas. And I'm glad that other people like yourself, I think Lindsay Langella, who's also on the board, has been running events. Dorothy Renz at Duffy and Duffy, I know, was working on an event. Amber Wright
Mhm.
at Howard Santola in Albany has been working on events. Um, I'm just really glad that we're able to sort of create this space in the profession for child welcoming family based activities. And,
Yeah.
and I'm glad
Definitely.
I might have been the start of it or not,
Yeah.
whatever.
All right. Well, it's been fun chatting with you today. If somebody wants to reach out to you and they want to learn more about uh, dog cases, or they want to refer you a case, they want to come to a family fun day, or whatever it might be, how would people find you?
So listen, I love working with other lawyers. A referral is the highest form of compliment. But I've helped many attorneys just spitball ideas, run through cases. I'm always happy to help, especially in a specialized knowledge like dog bite. You can reach me in my office. My phone number is 845-404-1881. You can get me online on email, cbeyer, Beyer, at onplaw.com. You can reach out to Will. Will will be able to get you in contact with me. He's got my personal cell phone number. Um, or reach out to the academy. If you talk to Michelle, you talk to Kate over there, they'll be able to hook you up with me as well. But look for me at O'Connor and Partners. I'm currently sitting in Poughkeepsie, New York, my old home and my new home.
All right. Thanks, Carrie. Talk to you soon.
Talk later, Will. God bless everyone.